Okay, and I'm recording now too, by the way. Watch this, Josh. So what's happening? I love your analogy. Watch this. What's happening if somebody works for a company that claims they're going to give them a raise, but the company can't afford to give them a raise? Something's happening in the BI triangle.
Yeah. Um, your your leadership, which I guess would be the level right above you, um, they're giving promises that they can't deliver on. You at the bottom of that triangle are expecting something that you cannot receive, but you don't have the scope to understand why you can't receive it. So you're teetering on the edge of something that does not exist. And you don't know how to fix it, and the people above you also don't know how to fix it.
Isn't this like the most valuable education for career development? Like, where does this fit in how important this is in career development, no matter what quadrant somebody decides to go into? What's your thought on this? Like, what if you were taught this from elementary school?
I think that if this was primary level knowledge, in a weird way, if this was primary level knowledge, I don't think that the BI triangle would exist, um, because you wouldn't need most of the components of that triangle. Um, it would probably be something like a BI rectangle. Um, yeah,
And
that's
what do you
crazy.
mean by that? Or like what would happen? How would this have affected your career path over the years if you knew this yourself and your education and your choice of education and your choice? Yeah, yeah. Help me with that.
Yeah, I think that even from a basic level, let's take finding that first high school job, for instance. Um, if you having the knowledge of the BI triangle, which is understanding all of the different levels within any given organization and how they interact with each other, choosing that first job becomes a completely different process, right? Like instead of sweeping hair at your local barbershop, where the people above you don't know exactly where your pay is coming from, they don't know how everything is flowing forward there. Um, you would choose to you would choose to work your first job at a company that you see is processing everything well. Like I don't know, like maybe throughout like your school process, you would start seeking passive education that would take you directly into fortune companies, or you would do more research into companies from the top to the bottom, not just from the hourly pay scale. Um, yeah, I think that answers the question in the way I wanted to.
And this is why, um, man, why this is a these these books, the Rich Dad Poor Dad series, is one of the textbooks. Those are some of the textbooks for Born CEO Academy because this information is vital. When I understood this BI triangle, I no longer saw myself as an employee at a job. I saw myself as the Born CEO, even before I understood this triangle, but this has made it even more clear. I started seeing myself as Bard Bell, the Fard Bell Incorporated. I am the Born CEO of Fard Bell Incorporated. I own my own company, and this job, this BI triangle, is one of my clients. And I'm not just working this job for a paycheck. I'm paying attention to all the different aspects of the BI triangle of this job because I'm in training to learn how to run my own BI triangle. I'm in training as the Born CEO mindset is that taking a job isn't just for a paycheck. We take a job. Yes, we use the paycheck to help pay our bills while we're building our side BI triangle, while we're learning how to build our own BI triangle around our idea, gift, or product. The product at the top of the triangle is the last part of the triangle, by the way. Everybody thinks in the F quadrant, they think the product is the most important part. And Robert Kiyosaki in Rich Dad taught him the mindset that McDonald's doesn't have the best burger. So if the product was the reason why McDonald's is so successful, we know that's not why. But McDonald's is the most successful burger business in the world. It's not the product. It's just a decent product with a spectacular system called a BI triangle around that product. It's the BI triangle they built around their burger that makes them wealthy, that makes them successful. So the most important skill we can ever learn as born CEOs is how to build a BI triangle around your product, which could be your gift. If you're a musician, your product might be your gift. If you're an inventor or an artist, your product is your invention or your idea or your artwork. If you are in sales, whatever you sell is the product, or your service is the product, right? However, what's going to set you free is not the product alone. It's the BI triangle that you build around the product. And Rich Dad Education, I highly recommend the book Rich Dad Poor, the second book, Cashflow Quadrant, and the third book, Guide to Investing, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing, because it's going to give you the education around how to build it. What is the BI triangle? How to think of the BI triangle? What the component is. At Born CEO Academy, we help you implement it. We help you implement it. Okay, now that I understand it, how do I actually get myself to do it? Why am I not doing it? Well, because I'm afraid of sales. BornCEO Academy is going to help you overcome the fear of sales, just like I overcame the fear of sales. Well, what if I'm shy and introverted? I'm shy. I was shy, and I am an introvert. It helped me overcome my shyness and succeed in spite of my introversion. In fact, use my introversion as a strength instead of a weakness. Well, I don't know how to build a team. Well, BornCEO Academy teaches you how to build a team. I utilize the network marketing business model to learn how to build a team, just like Robert Kiyosaki recommended in the book Cashflow Quadrant. And he recommends it in Guide to Investment as well. If you're wanting to find the safest place to start practicing building a BI triangle, there's no smarter place to do it part-time without having to quit your job than a network marketing business. I learned how to put systems in place, how to develop teams, how to communicate better, sales and marketing, external communication, internal communication, how to train and develop, inspire a team. I started learning cash flow management by trial and error, what not to do mostly, and learn what to do. Systems management, how to put systems in place, or either whether you create the system or just follow a proven system, which saves you time. And by the way, system stands for save yourself some time, energy, and money, right? Legal management, having a legal team in place to protect your idea, your product, your gift. And then finally, product management, working on the product, developing the product as well. And so at the base of the BI triangle, there must be a strong mission. Number one, there's got to be a strong leader on the right side of the BI triangle. And the strongest structure in the world is a tetrahedron. A pyramid is the strongest structure in the world. And this is a tetrahedron that looks like a triangle. The leader has to be a strong leader with a strong mission. If the leader's mission isn't strong enough, they'll quit. And not just a mission for the business to be successful economically, but a mission for the product. Like, what is the mission? If your mission is, man, I want to make a bunch of money, and, when I had my snack and candy shop, it was more of a financial mission than anything else. Like, I wasn't passionate about giving people candy. I wasn't changing anybody's life by selling candy. So there was only but so far that business was going to go, because my passion for it, unless I adopted a bigger purpose that was driving that business, it wasn't going to become a global thing. But my mission for BornCEO Academy to inspire and equip purpose-driven people worldwide to become who they were born to be, to maximize their income, maximize their impact, and do what they were born to do, like discover who they're truly born to be, equip them to do what they were born to do, live like they were born to live. That mission gives me unlimited passion. There's no obstacle that can make me quit. My mission is too strong. So a BI triangle must be built on a strong mission. Steve Jobs built Apple on his strong mission. When they voted him out, they didn't know they were voting out the spirit of the company. The founder's DNA was missing. And the company started to decline. When they brought him back, Apple started to thrive again. What happened? The true mission and the true founder's DNA was brought back and breathed into it, along with the genius and the brilliance and the focus and all the other factors. So the outside of the BI triangle must have strength. It must be a strong leader, and then with a strong mission, and then build a strong team that oversees each component inside of the BI triangle. All right, what else? What else you got for us, Josh?
Originally, when you first brought up the BI triangle to me, I looked at it from the inside out, right? So product, legal, systems, communications, cash flow was
And it's in reverse.
right.
You
It's the
start at the
outside
bottom
in.
and go to the top. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And even then, like outside of, it's like a spiral, you know. You have to develop your mission. You have to pick your team. Within your team, you find your leaders, and then the spiral goes in and upwards, right? Which is drastically changing my initial view of the BI triangle. Because looking at it as a diagram, it's like, okay, cool. You want to figure out what your product is. You want to find your legal protections, figure out your systems, communications, cash flow, and then the outside ring comes last. But understanding it in that spiral, it's kind of making it click a little bit easier for me.
You know what? And here's the Born CEO perspective of the BI triangle. It starts with the leader, you discovering who you are. Forget business, forget money. Who are you? How did God uniquely design you, and why are you? What is your personality? What are your gifts? What are your strengths that you are literally purposed to bring to this world, which is like, that's how God expresses his glory through him. Like when you have a child, you can see yourself in your child and the attributes, and you want to nurture and bring out the best of what's in that child. That's what BornCEO Academy is designed to do, is to help you discover, help pull out who are you, what are your gifts, what are your strengths, what are your values, what impact do you want to make in this world? What's your personality type that you were given for a reason? What are your strengths that you were given for a reason? What impact do you feel like you were put here to make in this world? And now from the leadership, let's discover your mission next. And now we start to describe your mission. Once we find your mission, we're like, okay, now your mission will start to give a clear picture of your product that's going to fulfill that mission, which is your gift, your idea, your product or service. Your gift, your idea, product or service is an expression of that mission. The mission gets fulfilled when people buy your product, your service, your gift, your idea. Now, who is the team that's required to manage the systems, to manage the 5 components around that product? Oh, man, okay, what are y'all getting out of this? Any other thoughts, insights, questions, comments, takeaways, personal experience?
I think, like I said to you earlier, I always end up relating everything kind of back to the car scene here. Um, and the analogy I gave you earlier was about establishing a crew. Um, and leadership starting with yourself was like a banger for me. Because I didn't look at that side of the triangle, including me. I looked at it including everyone afterwards. But leadership starting with me is good. Self discovery leads to your mission. I also think that when you understand your mission inspires people to want to become part of your team, um, which then pushes into your product and so on and so forth. Like the having that sturdy mission inspires people to believe in that mission enough to want to make that product succeed. Um, and then like a secondary thing that kind of hit my head was cash flows at the bottom for a very important reason for me. Cash flow needs to be at the bottom because you don't want cash flow to be the motivation. You don't want cash flow to be the beacon for your mission here. Like you don't want cash flow to be the end all be all. Cash flow is a wonderful byproduct um, of the rest of the triangle. Um, yeah, that's where my head is.
So good. These are what I call born CEO conversations. Born CEO conversations, the type of conversations we want to have going, especially in the world we live in. People are being forced. I think with every challenge comes great opportunities. The pandemic gave us a great challenge. It was difficult. It even came with devastation in many ways. And that was a challenging part of the pandemic. And there were also great opportunities that came out of the pandemic. The pandemic shifted us from a world where people felt like they had to go to work for a company and work there 8, 10, 12 hours a day and commute. And it opened up a whole new opportunity of being able to work remotely. When people find out I've been working from home remotely for over 20 years, they're like, what? I had so many people say, I thought that started with the pandemic. Nah, some people figured it out a long time ago. And we were sitting back like, come on, wake up, everybody. There's a better way. You can work remotely. You can make a 6-figure income working 15, 20 hours a week. That's what my next book is about that we're putting out is a 6-figure side gig. How to turn 10 to 15 hours a week into a full-time income, 6-figure income, residual. But what? So the pandemic opened up the world's eyes to something that a bunch of people have figured out already, but not a whole lot. Like, wait a minute, I can work remotely. And then opportunities to decide the gig economy where people started becoming more entrepreneurial. Like, wait a minute, I'd rather drive for Uber than to have to go punch a clock. I've got flexibility. It's starting to wake us up back to how things used to be. Then these jobs, the E-quadrant really came about mostly during the industrial age. That's a new concept. Before the industrial age, most people were in a family business, a family trade, the baker, the candlestick maker, you know, that's a new concept. Everybody was a business owner or self-employed back in the day. But in our since the industrial age and our economy and the educational system has conditioned people to do things the old way or the new way, which was getting a job. But the pandemic, I believe, started to help transition people out of that mindset and starting to think out of the box of traditional employment. And it's very important because when people get stuck in an old mindset and an old way of doing things, the trouble comes. Jobs are going away as we once knew it. Job opportunities are going away as we once knew it. Government shutdown, where we grew up in the DC area, that was always the most secure thing you can do. Get you a good government job. Now my friends in DC are like, I don't have my government job is insecure. And And then we got technology, we got the internet, and now AI. So the challenges that we face in today's economy, the world as we knew it is not going back. You know, relying on the Quadrant alone as an employee is no longer reliable. So if there was ever a time for people to need to learn how to build their own BI triangle, it's now. And God's been preparing us for this. I truly believe that Robert Kiyosaki is fulfilled his divine purpose with the Rich Dad Poor Dad series. I believe that 100%. His purpose in life was very important to produce the Rich Dad series because of today, for us today, and the generation coming behind us. And I'm fully convinced that my life purpose is important, that complements Robert Kiyosaki's life work in helping people implement those principles, not only for financial freedom purposes or for economic purposes to provide for themselves, but to become who they were born to be and do what they were born to do. And that message is actually embedded even in the Rich Dad series. What were you put here to do? What is your purpose? And when people can build a BI triangle around their purpose, that's what God wants us to do. God doesn't want us to go spend our lives doing something outside of the gift that he gave us and the purpose that he gave us. He wants us to fully express what he's given us. But guess what, God? What are people saying to God? Yeah, God, I know you want me to do this thing. I know you gave me this gift. You gave me this idea. You gave me this vision. And I know because it won't go away. But I got bills to pay, God. How am I going to pay my bills? Hello? We got to wait. But it's not employee. Because as an employee, yeah, you're paying your bills, but now you're putting your purpose on the back burner. Unless that job happens to be in your purpose. But we weren't born to be employees. That's not God's idea for us. A job is just a training ground until we create our own business around what we're purposed to do. It could be a business, it could be a nonprofit, it could be anything. No matter what we do, it's got to be our triangle around it to be successful. And as Josh was talking about cash flow being at the bottom, it's also at the bottom because it's a foundation, because every organization must have cash flow to pay the people and produce the products. And if there's a cash flow management product, no matter how good the idea is, no matter how good the mission is, no matter how good the humanitarian mission or purpose, it's going to crash. And this is where people that have great causes, people that don't think they care about money that much, because I'm a mixture between a humanitarian and an entrepreneur. The humanitarian part of me and the philanthropist in me could care less about money. I care about people. I care about purpose. But then the humanitarian, without the entrepreneurial part of me, has to rely on somebody else to fund my mission. I have to rely on grants for a nonprofit and compete with 1 million different nonprofits for a limited amount of funding that's available. The humanitarian in me that wants to feed all the homeless people in my community doesn't have enough money to do it. So I have to go find money from places or scrape together or not fully express what I was put here to do. The artist in me that loves music, if I wanted to be a musician, guess what? I want to play music all day, but I got bills to pay. And if my BI triangle isn't right around my music, I got to be stuck working to pay the bills outside of my passion. Or I become like my friend who told me when I went to DC and saw her play. I said, you still got it. You still playing that beautiful music that I remember from Duke Ellington High School. She said, yeah, but it's different now. And her countenance dropped. The enthusiasm, the light wasn't there. I said, what's the matter? She said, when we played in school, I played because I loved the music. Now I have 5 children. I have to play to pay the bills. It's not the same for me anymore. So here we are, without a BI triangle around our gift, we're forced to have to either do it because we have to, not because of the love and the mission, or we're forced to have somebody else fund it, which means we got to play by their rules, which normally changes our mission or restricts us. But if we just learned how to build our own BI triangle around our gift, around that idea, around our passion, we now can fulfill the mission that God gave us, our God-given mission, our purpose. We get to build a team around it. That mission gives us enough passion to overcome all the obstacles that will come from being an entrepreneur. And yes, they will come. But you got the passion to pull it off. Because when you're tapped into your true passion and purpose, this is why it's a mistake to say, oh, I'm going to go get a job that seems like it has the most security in it and ignore my passion because I think I can make more money in a job than my passion. No, that's a myth. You can make more money in your passion. All the money you ever need is hiding behind your purpose, your passion, and your gift. And your passion, along with a BI triangle around it. Your passion will give you what you need to endure the obstacles, to learn whatever you need to learn, to put the team in place, to cover the inside of the BI triangle, and to free you as the leader to live your life, to live your purpose, to live your dream. Mr. Monte, you are both, I know you can relate to that on so many different levels. As a musician and artist, you've been an employee, you've been self-employed, you probably been an investor. What do you take away from that range? You're on mute.
I think my biggest takeaway is kind of like what you touched on earlier. The lack of education on things like the BI triangle. In retrospect, it's like if I'd had this in this section of life, I could have turned this into something else, or I could have focused on what I actually want to do. And then now it gives me kind of it gives me something to play around with, you know. Um, like this whole time you've been going through this, I've been imagining plugging different things into this BI triangle. Um, like I wonder how this will affect this skill, or how will this affect this? How will this affect this? How will this affect customizing cars? How will this affect making music? How will this affect making art? How will this affect designing clothes? Um, and then hearing like it's translating your passion into sustenance isn't something that most of us have the benefit of considering. Not because it's not possible, but because it's not probable based on how we've been taught. Uh, and now that I'm getting introduced to this knowledge, the competitor inside of me wants to know how many things I can slap a BI triangle around and see how far we can really take that. Um, yeah, the oven is on.
That's so good.
Literally, actually. But yeah.
Wait, say that again?
I said the oven is on now. Literally, because I'm cooking.
Yeah. And the first BI triangle is for practice, but I believe everybody has an ultimate BI triangle around their gift. And my thing is, the earlier I can figure out what my gift is, my mission is, and my product that expresses it, whether it's a product, a service, a gift, an idea, why would I waste my entire life building other BI triangles when I could spend all of that perfecting my own? Now, for me, I wasn't clear on my mission, even though I started seeking. God had me, he told me when I had that dream, and the Lord showed up in my dream and said, in response to me not wanting to be alive by 6 years old, and said, I'm keeping you alive because there's something really important you're going to do for me. And then I woke up in awe, filled with that unconditional love that I never experienced before. The next day in Landover, Maryland, I'm at my best friend's house at the top of the hill. I'm running across the street. Before I could get across the street, I slipped and fell and heard the tires screeching behind me. My best friend in the door with his mouth wide open. The guy gets out of the truck looking for my dead body underneath the truck, and I stand up without a scratch. And all I can think of is the dream I just had the day before. I'm keeping you alive because there's something important you're going to do for me. That was the day I started seeking my purpose, my mission. I had no idea about the entrepreneurial aspect, and all I wanted to know is, what is this thing that you want me to do? I can feel how important it is because I feel it inside of myself, and I couldn't get it out of my head at 6 years old. What is this big thing that you want me to do? So my whole life, I wanted to know. And then at 14 years old, after being in the performing arts and surrounded by gifts and figuring out, man, every time I saw somebody in their gift, something inside of me was leaping. Like, yeah, you encourage that person, help that person. And when that voice from my dream would say, you see that bus driver? I gave her a gift and she's not using it. You see that homeless man? I gave him a gift and he's not using it. That message never went away my entire life. So all I knew at that stage about my mission was that it has something to do with people's gifts. It has something to do with people's purpose, figuring out who they were born to be. And I knew I felt guilty when people weren't doing it like I was responsible. So then growing up in the performing arts, being surrounded by gifted people and that passion was stirring up even more, I'm like, wow, looking back, God was using my mom to put me in the arts so I could discover my purpose. So now I got the first part. I'm supposed to help people, inspire people, encourage people in their purpose, but I still don't know what to do with that. Then at 14, I went to live with my stepdad, who was listening to Napoleon Hill, Science of Personal Achievement. And it had me write out my dream life. Budgeting time and money was one of the lessons. And I did my first time budget. I'm awake for 16 hours out of the 24. I got 16 hours to live my life, sleep for 8 hours. I designed my ideal life on paper, so I thought, showed it to my bonus dad, and he pointed out to me that I had everything on there except a job, except a business, except a way to earn income. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I do need a way to pay bills. How much time do I need to pay my bills? And that's when I had the rude awakening that people work 10, 12 hours a day to make a good living. I do the math. 14, if I'm awake for 16 hours, I spend 12 of them working for money. How the heck I got 4 hours left to live my life, to take care of my dreams, to fulfill my purpose. That sounds backwards to me. 4 hours to fulfill my God-given purpose, 12 hours to make money? Something's wrong. God, what am I missing? Around the same time in 1994, 14 years old, I start seeing these infomercials on television about passive income, residual income. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a real thing? I saw 60-year-olds that didn't have any retirement said we started investing in rental properties. Now we got positive cash flow. We got retirement income. I couldn't relate to them. But then these 20-something-year-olds come on the infomercials talking about, yeah, we're in our 20s. We followed the system from Carlton Sheets, no down payment. We've got rental properties. we got retirement income in our 20s. I'm like, wait, what? I thought you had to be retirement age to have retirement income. You don't have to wait. Why would I wait? And that's when I wrote my first goal on paper, to find a way to create enough residual income to free my time to retire by 25 years old from a job, so I can focus on living my purpose and helping other people live their purpose. So that led to me studying passive income. I found out my mom was already doing that with real estate, and it was real. My bonus dad pointed out to me. I'm like, this is real. I started listening to the audio course that we had right there on the bookshelf. I didn't know it was there. I started learning about real estate investing and going to seminars. And then I got my hands on the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. And I got that book, Cashflow Quadrant, which blew my mind. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cashflow Quadrant, and the Rich Dad Guide to Investment, which changed my world and showed me the answer I was praying for. How do I get free? So instead of having to slave my life for money, I can be free to do what God put me on this earth to do and teach other people how to do the same thing. And that's why I created BornCEO Academy. Mr. Schumer?
We're lucky that you went through that journey, and we're in a position to, I mean, even seeing with Josh making a comment after, and we talked a little bit earlier, the ability for us and the team and the people that are part of this to share that information to more people sooner, rather than his comment that we aren't taught this, we weren't taught it. Those of us that have learned it on our own and tried to grab at it and figure it out, never has there been a platform, if you will, to do that education, or a purpose that's what the purpose is. It's not something specific. I learned all of mine most of mine under the premise of providing a product or service. Okay, it was a byproduct, a very good byproduct. Okay, well, I mean, so it's all the things you're saying. You've taken it to a new level, which means it's the transformational coaching that you're talking about. How can we take the people who maybe have a piece of it and they've seen part of it, but take it to the masses? And that, to me, why am I here? Why am I doing this with you? It's because I believe in your mission. I believe in what you're saying. It actually parallels or echoes my own. I'm not as articulate as you are with it. I think I'm as passionate in the times, but we've got a chance. We always talk about having fun and helping people. That's the driving force. If we put the right team together, I've seen that triangle before. I didn't hear it called the BI. I didn't hear it. I've seen it before. I agree with it. It's a good foundation. Josh, I would say several of your analogies have been just excellent. The oil fields and being able to tie that in, the fact that you are seeing that message and able to immediately correlate it with something that you've learned, that you've been around, that you've done. That's a real key point, because if that's the case, then and you're getting it just like that. Imagine what can happen when you're in a position to help others see it sooner. That's what I'm always saying, is as we become consultants and we become mentors and we share the information, one of the great feelings is sharing information with people so they don't have to go through what we went through. So to see you at a younger age with a realization, having had a really good set of life experiences already, very diverse, lots of great skill sets, but to say, I never saw it that way, I was looking at it from the inside out instead of the other way around, that just shows, I mean, I believe it, but seeing it and seeing you articulate it makes me say, that's what we're all about. That's what we've got to get out. And so many of the things we talk about, people that want to do the business, as opposed to the people that we want to take into the nonprofit, where we teach and train the kids, and we teach and train, we put it in that situation, puts us in an amazing position for all aspects. And I guess my takeaway, coach, is to see Josh respond to what you just said and articulate how he saw it. It's just sort of like a uh-huh. That's, I saw in our conversation that here's somebody with great skill sets and opportunity to bring it, but to see him respond to what you just said makes it even clearer. One thing I would say, Josh, is that your takeaway about seeing that triangle and putting that triangle in so many different areas that are of interest to you, hear what Coach said. This is really, really critical. That can in fact work for you in the areas that you're passionate about. But if you try to do, we always talk about multiple streams of income. You've heard that before, right? Well, I heard that a long time until I realized they didn't mean multiple trickles. Okay? Multiple trickles of income is what comes when we are creative and we have ideas and we see all these things we want to do, but the advice that you gave, coach, is figure out what the purpose is, because that's the driving force to let you do all those other things. We call them pillars. They can be pillars of your structure, and you may find ways to use that to fulfill more purpose in different areas. But don't you, and then, coach, I'm just jumping in here. Don't use the fact that, hey, I like this in music, I like this in art, I like this in cars, I like all of it. That will turn into multiple trickles. Pay attention to the system to build the strong triangle, and all of that can be yours. All of that can be done using the same concepts, using the same principles, using what you're talking about because of what you're learning, because of what you're going to be able to apply. So many times in my career, as I've coached and mentored or talked to people, we don't teach. I am a lot better now than I was 15 years ago because of what's happened to me in the last 15 years, right? It's easier for me to say it and say, well, if you do it that way, let me tell you what's going to happen. So if you plug into the system of as it's being presented, all of those dreams, the overall picture will come to pass, can happen, but it will come to pass because you've laid out a good plan and then you've executed upon it. And with that said,
Wow.
I believe, and I truly believe that you bring, and I need not just coach in his 40s, we need people in their 20s who see this now, who embrace this now, who change their life now, and be able to give it to that part of the generation, because the sooner we can get the 20 somethings and the 30 somethings to buy in, see it, and they're catching it. When we get the right opportunity, they're seeing it, they're catching it. And when they do that, then the complete ripple effect, the mushroom effect, is going to happen, and we will be contributing to the future because we need to have entrepreneurial spirit. We need to have purpose-driven people. We have to have purpose-driven people that are taking us in the future so that we're in better hands. And I'm excited that you in your 20s are seeing that. I couldn't, and again, I did say, coach, when I was talking with Josh, hey, that's family. I got a brother that's 23, 22 years younger than I am. I'm saying what I believe here. Okay, so there can be the brother, and with JT, there's the nephew. But I'm telling you, from this is what I would be saying to my brother if he was on this Zoom, or anybody else I'm talking to. And I'm excited, honored, and privileged to be here, and excited that you're deciding that you want to try and figure this out, because what you say you need, I am certain we can provide it. I don't. I'm transparent to a fault, and I'm not a pie in the sky guy. I try to under promise and over deliver all the time. We can make this happen for you, but you will make this Barn CEO movement better sooner. And I don't want to jump out on a limb here, but you're a younger brother, okay? You got years between you and coach. You could be at the table right now and be part of the legacy to keep it going at some point in the future. That's an unbelievable spot that most 20 somethings will never get an opportunity to participate in, but you're going to be able to teach others how they can. So, thanks for letting me participate in this one, Coach. I
Yep.
know we do the different Barn CEO, but Great hour, just a great hour.
Mr. Schumer, I was about to speak 5 minutes ago when I saw something in this. The power, look at what God has set up just right here on this Zoom. We represent 3 completely different generations. And the first thing Josh said to me is, I like Ed.
Well,
And he said, man, he's got like that grandfather quality that I really look. But what you just pointed out, and what I saw before you even said that, I'm like, wow, here we are. God's got 3 generations coming together to take this message and this movement to the world. And Josh and I are about 18 years apart, almost 20 years gap. You and I don't know what our gap is.
what are you, 45?
45, yep.
Okay, so we've got 27 years.
Nice. And look at what God is doing with 3 generations. We talked about that. Josh, earlier, there's power in 3 generations, even all throughout the Bible. You know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, there's something about the power of 3 generations. God wants to impact generations. And to your point, and reminder to Josh and anybody watching this, if we make this public, it's hard enough to build one BI triangle. So if it takes a lot, that's why it takes a strong mission. So you're going to go through people, you got to find the right people, you got to put the right pieces together, you got to balance cash flow and all the different things. It's hard enough, but it's the most exciting and exhilarating adventure. But my point is to reiterate what Mr. Schumer just said about focus. The only reason I would ever work in another BI triangle is to develop my skills for my one BI triangle, my main life's work BI triangle. But if you can get to that earlier in life and start building that BI triangle earlier in life, you're only one BI triangle away from living your dreams and fulfilling your purpose. And I'm talking about a type of purpose that will give you a source of joy that you can never get from anywhere else. The type of purpose and of fulfillment and passion that will never run out. There's a type of passion that you can't get anywhere else but from your real purpose. There's a type of connection to your creator that you'll never experience in another way than when you actually tap into the very thing that your creator designed you to produce. It's like being able to, I'm picturing a father and a son having fond memories of going fishing together, or that bond, that memory that every child wants with their parent. That's the connection that we get to have with our creator when we discover what our creator put inside of us and we build a relationship, that dynamic, and he's teaching you day by day who you are, how to form it. Like literally, I have my 5 a.m. prayer walk every morning, and I'm tapping in. My prayer life is a whole nother experience because the Holy Spirit is telling me what to do next. I'm making myself available. I'm finally listening. And he's giving me strategy and idea and solution and affirmation and everything I need to be who I was created to be. So if you are, as early as you can in life, find the mission, the gift, passion, product, or service that expresses your life mission and get to work on that thing early on. Don't be distracted by unnecessary BI triangles unless it's a part of your journey to prepare you to build your own ultimate BI triangle. That's my message of the day.
I want to say I take the grandfather image. I want to share something. Okay, I always say with my grandkids, if I knew grandkids were so much fun, I would have had them first. I've used that statement, but I've never. This is the first time in my career. Okay, the first time in my career that in a conversation like this that I get acknowledged as the grandfather figure. But I want to share something with you. My daughter is a little bit older than you, and my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, is exactly the same age as you, Josh. So that parallel.
Wow.
Okay, I mean, my daughter is 40. My daughter just my oldest daughter 49. Okay, my granddaughter 27. Um, so when you make that when made that analogy, my first reaction was, okay, I'll make some smiley joke about this and talk about things, but I appreciate that because you know what, that's a position of power. That's a position of relevance as well as impact as well as
Legacy.
there's oh, it's really there. And I'm not saying that short, Josh, because as I've been talking with Coach about this, I'm talking trying to be when we talk about contemporaries, and I've always been respectful of everything that I believe in what he's doing. But you have a chance. I don't want to make say this lightly. You have the chance. You have the chance to be the part of this and take your role with where you are and be just as important as anybody else in the pie. It's that important, I think.
Let me say the part you didn't want to say. You have a chance to surpass everything that we've learned in our lifetimes. And if we do this right, that's how it's supposed to be. Ed's generation is supposed to uplift my generation. My generation is supposed to uplift your generation. Your generation is supposed to uplift the next generation. And if everybody does their part, the next generation should surpass the previous generation. Josh, any final words? Thoughts, feelings? Can't
Yeah.
really see your face. We're talking to your chest. And now we're talking to your nose.
Hey, man.
Oh, there you go. I can see you now.
All right, cool. I think my biggest takeaway here is just not even it's more so just like an appreciation, um, because it is just as easy as it is to sit in this call and absorb this information. It would have been just as easy to carry on through the rest of our life without it. Um, and the weight of that is like crazy in my head right now. You know, like I could probably throw a rock across my yard and hit 4 or 5 people that will never hear this. Um, but now, because I've heard it, the epicenter shifts, right? So now those 4 or 5 people that I can hit with a rock, I can now hit with knowledge instead. And it can keep going and keep going. Um, and then I kind of take it to another level there. I'm 27, hearing this from you two guys, and I'm able to absorb this because I have been surrounded by forward thinking people. If I'm 27 with 2 kids at this level, by the time they're 14, I'll be at a level where I can give that knowledge to them then. And then I would say to kind of piggyback off of each generation uplifting the next generation. I think that to take that to another level, I think the next generation that gets uplifted should get continuously younger. Um, Whereas you can be 80 and become a millionaire, and the next generation is a millionaire at 60. The next generation is a millionaire at 40. The next generation is a millionaire at 20. The next generation is a millionaire at 15. Right. Um, so that's kind of where my head is there. Um, and to the other point about making sure that I focus on having a powerful stream, and not infinite numbers of trickles. I I take that I take that to heart. But with that, my goal doesn't change. And the reason why I say that is another analogy. Most vehicles, you have a power steering system. And now all of your power steering is electronic, right? Originally, your power steering system came from a reservoir of power steering fluid. And there was one line that ran from that reservoir and that connected to your axles and which helped your steering. But that one line had to separate to be able to provide pressure to everything that needs to turn. With your new electronic pumps, there is one metal box that has 8 or 9 pumps within it. And all of those pumps put out the exact same output. So the exact same power is separate. The exact same power is given from one place, right? But it's separated, but not lessened, right? My goal is to gain enough knowledge and understanding to be able to diversify without losing potency, right? But I'm still very fresh, but I will get there. So,
Bro, what you just said is brings us back full circle. The 90-10 riddle. This is where we started, and I know we got an appointment, Ed. The 90-10 riddle is what the wealthiest people in the world, wealth is just a byproduct of following God's principles, by the way. We're talking about generational impact. Wealth is an organic product. Adam and Eve were born into abundance and wealth. They didn't have to work for money. There was gold in the land, and God literally said in the first 3 chapters of Genesis in the Bible, of Genesis, the gold in that land is good. What do they need gold for? They didn't need to buy anything. Wealth is just a byproduct of God's kingdom, and we're God's children. We're royalty. We're the royal family. But what you just said, Josh, and here's the Born CEO advice. That main BI triangle is your life BI triangle. But what happens is it organically turns into multiple BI triangles. For example, you got your BI triangle around, let's say your life's mission is, take BornCEO Academy, right? The BI triangle around BornCEO Academy creates a stream of cash flow. But then that stream of cash flow turns into, from BornCEO coaching to the next division of BornCEO, which becomes a whole nother BI triangle birthed out of this BI triangle. And then the next division of BornCEO, and then the next division, and then the next division. And that's literally exactly what it's supposed to be. You're solving the 90-10 riddle, becoming the 10% of investors who own 90% of the investments are people that don't buy stock that other people sell. You become the person that creates stock that other people want to buy. You have built a business that invests in other businesses and other investments, and that cash flow continues to multiply perpetually, and it can fund all of your humanitarian causes and missions. Like I'm building BornCEO Academy to fund the nonprofit BornCEO Leadership Academy, which will provide scholarships for people who are in need and are deserving of to participate in BornCEO Academy and other things that we plan to do. So, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I look forward to our next BornCEO conversation. Bye for now.
Have a good evening, fellas.
You too. Enjoyed it today, Josh. We'll talk